The man placed a lump of dough on his head and performed a talent show for the enemies in the watchtower, leaving them completely stunned. One of the enemies, curious to try it himself, asked the man to put the dough on his head. After several failed attempts to manipulate the dough, the man took the enemy's hand and guided him through the process. The enemy, seeking more excitement, grabbed another knife. While the enemy was preoccupied, the man cleverly knocked a pair of chopsticks off the table with the dough. As the enemy bent down to pick them up, the man prepared to strike. Another enemy, who had narrowly escaped being stabbed, kicked a bowl off the table to signal the outside enemies. Fortunately, the man caught it with his foot. After eliminating all the enemies in the watchtower, the man began to climb to the top. Meanwhile, a soldier delivered food to the enemy officer, who was about to eat some fish. The soldier stopped him and explained the proper way to eat the fish. The officer followed the soldier's instructions, took a bite of the fish, and praised the soldier's cooking skills. Soon, the officer discovered a knife hidden inside the fish. The soldier, noticing that the man had reached the top of the watchtower, grabbed the knife and lunged at the enemy officer. The officer's aide, who had just drawn his pistol, was executed by a knife thrown by the soldier. The man then opened fire with a machine gun on the surrounding enemies, who were caught off guard and suffered heavy casualties. Hearing the commotion, another enemy rushed into the room and engaged in a fight with the soldier. The enemy officer took the opportunity to call for reinforcements. The soldier pinned the enemy against his crotch, removed the bayonet, and executed him. He then used the enemy's body to knock down the officer and cut the telephone wire. The enemy officer drew his gun, but the man intervened and slammed him into a window, causing him to hang there. The enemy headbutted the soldier and then threw him into a cabinet. Despite the pain, the soldier stabbed the officer in the waist. As the officer pulled out the knife, the soldier kicked him to the ground. At that moment, the prisoners who had been held by the enemies were all released, and the prisoner camp erupted into chaos. The enemies threw a grenade at the watchtower, but the man reacted just in time to avoid the explosion. The enemies opened fire on the escaping prisoners, who had just reached the gate. Another watchtower's machine gun mowed them down. Meanwhile, the enemy officer lunged at the soldier with a knife. The soldier picked up a pen from the ground, stabbed it into the officer's neck, and then plunged the knife into his abdomen. With all his might, he pushed the enemy officer out of the window. The officer met his end on the spot. The most significant threat to the northwest was now the enemies in the watchtower. The soldier picked up a grenade from the enemy's body, wrapped it in a cloth, and threw it at the watchtower. With an explosion, the enemies were all eliminated. Finally, the soldier and the man used all their strength to open the gate, allowing the prisoners to escape. In this way, thanks to the efforts of the brothers in arms, all the prisoners in the enemy camp were rescued.